I'm Janet Wright. I am the editor of the Woodstock Quilt Guild 9-Patch News, and I'm also your hostess for the Declutter Challenge. So let's have a look at what we've done already. In September, we took out all the garbage, went through papers and any kind of books, patterns, all that stuff, and we decided we're going to clean up after every 2 projects. How you making out with that one? Have you forgot about that one already? So what we're looking at this time is we're looking at cleaning out our sewing room, and we're looking at some good habits. So the good habits for September is to clean up after 2 projects. Then last month, in October, we looked at taking out non-sewing items out of your room. So for example, I had a suitcase in my sewing room. I took that out. There's a chair that's still in there that needs to come out that I'm going to take out. Then we had a look at our pre-cuts. And as you've seen, I have a lot of pre-cuts. I was surprised that I had as many as I had, and I'm finding that this whole decluttering thing is very surprising. I have a lot more stuff than I thought I had. I went through all of my pre-cuts. I also showed you how I cut my scraps down into pre-cuts so that I can use them. I need to make more scrap quilts is what I have figured out. And I'm on that road right now, so I'm okay with that. And my pre-cuts are very organized. Hopefully you went through yours. You found some very good ways of storage, and so that you can access them, because if we can't get to stuff and access them, then we really don't use them. And if we don't use them, then we can't keep them. Seems to be the whole purge idea. So here we are in November, and this one was quite a struggle for me. I've kind of lost my get up and go. As you can see, I'm not in my sewing room. There's a reason for that. November's task is going to be battings and batting scraps and backings. And of course I said, oh, I don't have that much. Well, I was wrong. So this is what I had in my sewing room. I figured out that I wasn't dealing with it in my sewing room, so I brought it all to work, and I will show you what I pulled out of my little sewing room in just batting. So this was all batting that I brought and took to work. Here you go. So as you can tell, I had a lot of batting. The thing with quilting is that every time you do a quilt and you send it out, you have batting scraps that come back to you. Now, how are you going to deal with that? Do you need to keep it? Should you get rid of it? How can you use it? So for me, this whole series is based on Karen Brown's, the company is Just Get It Done Quilts. It's her declutter challenge. So essentially what we're doing is we're going to try to get rid of the unwelcome, the unwanted, and the no longer needed. So batting. Batting comes in all different kinds of sizes. After we send a quilt out and it comes back, sometimes we just have a little piece, sometimes we have a big piece, it just depends. But every quilt that we send out has batting scraps. Also, batting comes in different kinds. You can get cotton, you can get 30-70 blend, which is what I use quite a bit of. So what am I going to do with these pieces that come back? This is the question. So because I have so much of it, I went through it and looked, and most of the battings that I have are all of the same kind. So because they are, I can do what they call Frankenbat, which essentially is like right now I'm going to be doing a quilt that's 60 inches. I'm not going to go buy a 60-inch batting because apparently I have lots. So what I will do is I'll find 2 kinds and I will sew that together, and then that will give me a bigger piece. So Frankenbats are really good, and that's what I've kept most of my larger pieces for. When I went through, don't mix them up. So if you're making Frankenbats, you want to keep them all the same kind. Don't be putting in a polyester with a pure cotton, because what will happen is they shrink differently and you will not be happy with that. So keep them the same kind if you're going to Frankenbat. So scraps, batting scraps we're still talking about. How much room do you have in your room for batting scraps? Because everything we've done so far, we've dedicated a certain space for that. So look in your sewing room and figure out how much room you have for batting scraps. Also, how many of them are you going to use? Because that's the trick question right there. If you're not going to use any of them, then you need to cut them up and put them in your cat bag. Or if you know somebody that might have an embroidery machine that could use them, or if you know somebody that makes a lot of pot holders, they're perfect for small things. Quilt as you go. If you're a quilt as you go girl or a person, then you could probably use these bat scraps for that. Do you do that? Okay, I don't quilt as you go, so I'm not keeping them for that. anything that was smaller than 12 inches, I'm not going to probably ever use. So I found a friend that has an embroidery machine who's willing to take these. If not, I was just going to cut them up and put them in the cat bag. Or another option is, if you know somebody or yourself, you would like to make a jelly roll rug. They take 2.5-inch strips. You could actually cut your batting into 2.5-inch strips and then roll it, and then you could sit down and make one of those. So there's some options for getting rid of stuff. Are you going to do that though? That's what it comes down to. I'm not going to be making no 2.5-inch jelly roll strip rug. I know I'm not. I don't quilt as you go. So all those smaller pieces were no good to me. If I hadn't have found somebody that would take them, I probably would have put them in the cat bag. So that's where I'm at with that. So stuffing pillows too. If you happen to make pillows, you can cut that up and put that in a pillow. That would be a really good idea. And especially the videos that I was watching of Karen, she was going to be doing bench pillow. So that requires quite a lot of pieces, little pieces of batting. So those are some spots that you can do. So I'm extremely lucky. My batting is not going to stay at home. I have an overflow spot. I call it work. But I also need to be organized so that when I go looking for it, that I can. So let's go see what I do. Okay, so I box my batting, and essentially what I do is I take each piece and I measure it. So this is the batting that I have that is black. So I actually measure it. So this piece here says that it's 14 by 42. Then I take that information and I write it on a sheet of paper, and I put that on the box. You can see, so this is what I have that's all black. So I don't even have to look in the box to see if I have the right piece of batting that I can use. So each one of these are measured, and then they go in the box. Then the box has this outside thing on it so that I know every size, and I can just get that down off of the shelf because I keep it up high, and I'm good to go. So this is all the black batting that I found in that great big pile. So all this will go in that box. And this is my whites. I didn't bother taking them out. So I have given myself a cap. I'm only allowed to keep one box, not counting the black. So this box is full, as you can see. And on the outside of this box, I have listed the sizes, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is every time I need a purse or I'm making something, anything, it doesn't really matter what it is, and I take it out of the box, I will cross that off the box, and that way I know it's not in there anymore, and that should keep me pretty organized. So that's how I keep my batting organized. Now the other thing that we're going to hit this month is backing. I don't have any. Well, I don't think I have any, but I probably do. So for backing for me, I never buy backings unless it's for a particular quilt. And the reason that I keep the leftover cutoffs is that sometimes I'll make a table runner or something that's a little wider than width of fabric, and then I would like to use that backing. So I make a lot of minkies, use a lot of minky on the back of quilts. I keep those. Sometimes I can Frankenstein them together if it's a quilt that I don't care about. I'm working on a scrap quilt for myself that I'm going to do that. Otherwise, they're probably no good. I'm going to go through them. I haven't done that yet, but I am. Then I'm going to pull all the backing pieces that I have out of my room. I've only come across 3 or 4. I'm sure there's more in there somewhere. And I'm going to decide how wide they are. So if they're 20 inches or so, I'll probably keep them. If they're 12 or smaller, I probably will just put them in the scrap bucket and I'll cut them up into scraps. So this month, I want you to go through your batting. I want you to decide if you could need to keep it or not, or if you should get rid of it, and organize it in some way, shape, or form. Try to figure out how much room you have. Luckily, I have an overflow, so I can keep mine. Otherwise, my little room I probably wouldn't keep it because my room's too small. Backings. I want you to have a look. Apparently, after talking to a couple other quilters, people buy backings just randomly. So if you do have them, do you have them in a particular spot where they're all together? If you don't, I'd like you to do that this month. And if you have pieces of backings, decide what you're going to do with them. Let's see if we can hit that. If you notice, we haven't hit fabric too hard because I think that's going to be really hard on us all. We all have a lot of fabric to go through. So I'm going to try to give you little pieces to get us feeling good about it before we get there. And then hopefully we won't find it quite as daunting. So this month we're going to hit backings and backing battings and backings. And we're going to try to get those organized in a specific space in our room, and we'll call that good. Now, good habit. What are we going to use for a good habit this time? Let me have a look. So I want you to start looking at your sewing room. We're going to try to hit the 3 key points. This month we're going to hit your ironing board height. So we all have things set up in our sewing room, and sometimes it's just, hey, I got an ironing board and I'm happy and I'm ironing, right? Well, that's not necessarily a good thing on your back, especially. So I found this book. It's a wonderful book. I bought it when I was doing my quilt room. And in it, it hits your ironing board height, your cutting table height, and your sewing machine height. So we tend to do this stuff a lot. And after a while, if we don't have it at the right height, it can be hard on your back. And nobody wants that. So ironing. So what is the right height for your ironing board? So what essentially the book tells you to do is to stand up. Now I'm going to cut my head off, but it doesn't matter. So we're going to stand up, put your hand out. Your ironing board should be approximately 3 inches shorter than your elbow. We're all different heights, right? And the reason that is that your iron is approximately 3 inches, although most of them are a little bit bigger. So that's what you want to do. You want to stand at your ironing board, measure down 3 inches from your elbow, and approximately that's where it should be. So you can see on my desk here, that is not 3 inches. This is too low. So what happens when I'm going to press on this, I tend to bend over. So that's not good. So if I was going to use this iron, this would be perfect right here. So I want you to go and I want you to look at your ironing spot, your pressing station. And I want you to see if you're bending over or if you're too tall. So you're going to stand there and you're going to measure 3 inches below. That's the task for good habits this month. So I want you to go through your backing, go through your batting. I want you to get that stuff organized, and I want you to have a really good look at your pressing station and make sure it's at the right height. And that's all I need you to do this month. Stay tuned for more for next month. Thanks.